I might have called Kelly O'Dwyer a Labor MP. She is, of course, the Liberal MP for Higgins. You might recall the former Treasurer, Peter Costello, used to be in that seat. She's also Chair of the Economics Committee. Kelly O'Dwyer, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Raf. How are you?
I'm well. Firstly, just your response. I mean, good idea, isn't it, if parties like you, like the ALP, have a discussion about policy? What's your response to their knocking on the head the idea of banning offshore processing?
Well, we actually did have an agreed position on this before the 2007 election. There was actually a bipartisan position on offshore processing, on temporary protection visas, and on turning boats around when it was safe to do so. That was the position of the Howard government, and the Labor Party at that time did agree with it. But after the 2007 election,
I'm not sure it was stated policy of it, was it, of Kevin Rudd to turn back boats? I think that might be putting words into his mouth.
Well, broadly speaking, though, it was supported by the Labor Party at that time. It was changed, though, in August of 2008. It was changed by the Labor Party to actually no longer have those elements of the policy in place that had been a huge discouragement for people smugglers trying to sell very exorbitant fares to fairly desperate people in order to come across to Australia and risk their lives. Now I heard Anna speak, from a very heartfelt place. And look, I don't doubt Anna's sincerity on that. But what I would say is I don't see the humanity in allowing more than 1,000 people to lose their lives at sea. And I do think that the changes in policy very much had a direct impact on people making that journey. We have seen in the changes that we have made in government that people are no longer making that journey, and there's been now 180 days under Operation Sovereign Borders where no unauthorised arrival has actually made it to Australia successfully. And I think that is a great testament to the policy that we have put in place.
I suppose your harshest critics, though, your harshest critics don't believe that it's about saving lives. They don't believe that the policy of offshore processing and being tough on those trying to make claims to be refugees, they think your policy is about trying to drum up some sort of darker side of Australian character.
Well, I don't think that's right at all. And you talk about critics. Let me tell you that the head of the Human Rights Commission, Gillian Triggs, actually said this policy has been successful in saving lives. And let's not forget there's another element beyond saving lives that I think, people who talk about this as a humanitarian issue should think about. With more than 50,000 people who had arrived unauthorised by boat, 30,000 of those people, 30,000 were left to languish unprocessed in Australia in community detention.
Well, those people were not able to. Got poor processing records, don't they?
No, but they were not able to take up work. They were literally languishing, in some cases in very unsafe circumstances, in boarding houses where the government really could not be assured that those people were in a safe position and were being properly cared for. And under the temporary protection visas, people were in fact able to work. And again, this is the complete difference between the two policies. Let's not forget more than 8,000 children arrived under Labor's policies, and they were put into community detention and detention more broadly.
But there are kids being shifted to places like Christmas Island. There are babies being shifted to places like Christmas Island.
Well, there were no children in detention. No children in detention under the Howard government policies by the time that we left government.
But there are babies being transferred to places like Christmas Island under your government, aren't there?
We don't want to see children in detention. We actually don't want to see people making this dangerous journey. We do want to support people coming to Australia, resettling in Australia, which is why we have one of the most generous resettlement schemes in the world, and it's something that we as a coalition government support. We believe, though, it's important for people who are sitting in refugee camps to have the same ability to be able to come to Australia, and that is why we have put in place the policies that we have.
Look, I do want to ask you a question. You've had quite a few interesting conversations with John Fain. This is very much about your Economics Committee role. You've had discussions about people from overseas buying houses and apartments here. Is there any prospect that the government's actually going to in some way limit foreign investment in real estate?
Well, look, the government is very supportive of foreign investment in real estate, but there is a difference between the types of foreign investment that we support in residential real estate. We believe foreign investment, particularly when it increases the dwelling stock, should absolutely be encouraged. And that is the current framework that's in place. It's good for the Australian economy, it's good for anybody who wants to buy or rent, and it's good for builders and suppliers who actually, get the economic benefit of that work. But we do have restrictions in place under the current framework that say foreign investors who are non-resident can't purchase existing dwellings, so existing homes.
Yes.
And that balance, I think, broadly is right, although we are looking at that in our inquiry. The question we have is whether or not it is being appropriately enforced, and that is why our inquiry has been taking submissions. That's why we're having a hearing in Melbourne this coming Friday. We're having hearings in Sydney the following Friday. We've already had hearings in Canberra.
I appreciate your arguments, and I think people would appreciate on Friday having their say, but I can't see, and tell me if I'm wrong, I can't see the government substantially changing the current arrangements.
Well, I'm not going to prejudge the outcome of the committee's deliberations, but we are doing a very comprehensive review into all aspects of foreign investment into residential real estate. We're also looking at overseas comparisons as well, and we're looking at what are the economic benefits for Australia and whether or not the current rules are properly being enforced and whether the penalty arrangements are appropriate. So, I don't think you can prejudge the outcome before we've received all of the evidence, but we are taking this matter very seriously.
Okay. Kelly O'Dwyer, thanks for your time.
Terrific, Raf. Nice to be with you.
Kelly O'Dwyer, she's the Liberal MP for Higgins in Melbourne. Of course, she's also the chair of the Economics Committee. I will get to you.